This is kind of a second part of the baby dedication, wedding, and funeral, or the fun way of saying it as the hatch, match, and dispatch part of the real stuff. The truth of it is, weddings, they're wonderful and frightening and great and scary all at the same time. The interesting thing with all of this is, to be honest, the wedding's supposed to be the easy part, really, because then the marriage is what takes the work. And yet the wedding day is, oh my goodness, it can be a wild time. So at the same time, you as a minister, you have the opportunity of bringing some calm and some peace and some comfort to a couple or to a family walking through a wedding. Be sure to have printed off, I hope you have printed off, you have quite a bit of paperwork. You have a counseling guide, the wedding service itself that's listed, you've got the wedding party, then I'm giving you the ceremony that I have written and that I use. You can use it or not, that's your choice, but I'm kind of walking through that with you. And then an example of a letter you would write, matters what state you're in, and things as to a letter that in some ways, some states, what happens is that if you have given counseling and they have gone through a certain amount of counseling, they have a reduced cost on their marriage license. So that's one of the reasons for doing it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of we're going to stay with this, the wedding counseling guide. I always recommend that you have at least 3 sessions. Your first session is going to be at least a good hour, hour and a half. The second session is dealing with 5 different areas to talk to them about the couple getting married. That is a good 2-hour session, to be quite honest. You need to take some time as you're walking through all of that. And then session 3 really is closer to the wedding itself so that you can walk through the wedding, where people are going to stand, the different things, because you want all of that taken care of, ready to go. You also, at that last session, that's a great time to give them the letter showing that you have done the counseling, give that to them so that when they go to the courthouse to get their marriage license, they're ready to go. They have that letter signed by you showing that you have done what you need to do. All right, so follow through and we go. Counseling guide, that first session. Okay. You might know the bride or you might know the groom and you may not know the other one. You might know both of them before the wedding. But this is the opportunity of getting to know each other. This takes about an hour, hour and a half. I've even done this at a meal. Sometimes I've just said, hey, let's meet for lunch or whatever, or even dinner, whatever works with their schedule. You talk a little bit about the ceremony itself. You talk about the preparation for marriage. I have started actually giving them this paperwork so that they can see the questions, some things I'm going to be asking them. It's provided the opportunity. I used to never give it, but now I give it, and I have found that couples told me it provided them with the opportunity to discuss some of these things before we even met, which was good. They needed to talk about them. I really was just trying to help them move forward in the discussion of certain areas on marriage. But for them to have it earlier kind of provided them the opportunity of talking through some items even before we got back together. So session 1's getting to know them. If you don't know the bride or the groom, this is a great opportunity. Where did you come from? Where's your family from? Find out the dynamics of a family, with divorce issues, death issues, different things like that, knowing about the different ones. This is also that time to find out if both of them are Christians. I personally have an issue with doing a wedding ceremony for someone who is a Christian and someone who is not a Christian. I don't think it's a good idea for me to do that ceremony and bring them together into a marriage that I consider holy when one of them does not believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and is not a Christian. That is me. You as a minister must make your mind up as to how you want to handle those things, all right? I did those before, way back in the first part of ministry, when I was first credentialed, ordained. I made the decision a little bit later. I don't feel comfortable with this. I think I'm doing a ceremony, I'm doing this time where I am bringing them together as husband and wife. And they will have enough issues down the road as Christians without that salvation issue in front of them. I encourage you to talk about that in the very first session. Now, if you know the bride or groom, you don't know the other one, talk to the one you do know and just ask the question so you're not caught off guard or whatever the case is, and be aware, all right? And then getting to know them, what are your jobs? What have you been doing? Tell me a little bit about your education. I mean, there's all kinds of great things opportunity, get to talk to them, find out things. That's session 1. Session 2 is divided into 5 parts, and that's when you're going to have about a 2-hour session with them. The first, kind of go over the wedding ceremony a little bit, talk about the members of the wedding party things. There are information sheets that you have here that you could give to them, the wedding party itself, ask them to complete this and bring it back at the next session so that you've got the names of who's the best man, who's the maid or matron of honor, are there candlelighters, ring bearers, flower girls, vocalists, what songs are going to be done, those kind of things. It's an information sheet for you, which really works out well. And then you give them an example of a wedding service. Again, this can be changed. It's just giving them an outline, and then you're able to go back in and make the changes that need to be done. Also, in that session 2, you would give them the opportunity, you would give them this information, which is the wedding ceremony itself. I like to give that to them and then ask them to read through it, see what they like, what they don't like, if there's any changes they would want to make, if they're going to write some of their own vows. Just talk a little bit about that, because to be quite honest, that can all be dealt with a little bit later, but it does give them the beginning of it so that you can be better prepared for the last session that you're going to have, session 3. Let me get this. All right. So what we've got is, let's go to the next 4 topics is how we're going to, family and friends. What kind of relationship do you now have with your future in-laws? Really good question. Here's the thing that you want to make sure you understand. You as a minister have the privilege and the responsibility of asking some questions during these counseling times that maybe nobody else is going to ask. This is your privilege. They have consented to the counseling. And by the way, I won't do a wedding ceremony if they're not going to come to counseling with me. I'm just not going to do that. Now, I have had a couple of issues where maybe there was something else that they wanted to do, and they had someone that they wanted to go to counseling for that they knew or whatever. I don't have a problem with that, but they've got to do some wedding counseling, and then I need to ask a few questions of them at a point. May not be as extensive. So, family and friends, discussion. Where are you spending some holidays? How are you going to do Christmas? How are you going to do Thanksgiving? Are you going to offset? Are you going to try to make 5 meals in that one day? What is going to happen with all of that? Children in the future, have you talked about those things? What kind of a role will your friends be in your marriage? Or do you have hobbies? Do you like to have alone time? Are there certain things you want to do? And then discuss selfishness and possessiveness in marriage. That's a really important topic that they hadn't even thought about. There are some couples who think they have to do everything together. There are others who think, we just want to do everything apart. Well, guess what? Both bad. Both bad. You want to have a good middle ground with that. It gives you the opportunity of talking to them about it, okay? There's some things you may want to do on your own. Maybe he likes to hunt, and she does not want to do that. Maybe she loves to go shopping. He does not want to do that. I know guys who say they'd rather go through the tribulation than go through the mall. That's a joke. Anyway, the truth of it is all of us have different things. Talk to them about that, because here's the thing. Maybe they haven't discussed that. It's important to talk about. Also, individual hobbies and what are some things they could do together. Good opportunity to talk about. The next one is finances. You're not asking them to divulge to you how much money they make or all those things. You're not wanting to see their W-2 forms or their tax returns. That's not what this is about. It's really about bank accounts and things. Are you going to do joint bank accounts, or have you started thinking through how you're going to do that? Are both of you going to put all your money together and then you pay everything? Are you keeping separate accounts so that different things are paid for in different ways? Those are just questions for them to talk about because maybe they haven't yet. And that's an important thing. Ask them about if they have a lot of debt before the wedding, about credit cards. Credit cards can be wonderful and horrible all at the same time. If you misuse a credit card and you just keep putting everything on it, there's going to be a reckoning day, and it's not going to be good. So I always encourage them, if you don't have credit cards, it's not a bad idea to consider the idea of getting a couple of credit cards. Maybe charge 1 or 2 things each month on a couple of credit cards and pay them off at the end of the month. Make sure if you're going to charge something, you've got the money to pay it off at the end of the month. You don't want to be paying those interest fees. But I talked to them about that because it does help them to establish some credit if they don't have any. And there are different ones who just don't have a lot of credit. They don't have that built up. So this is an opportunity, again, for you as a minister to talk to them and give them some ideas as they prepare for marriage. Also, where are they going to live? Have they looked at it? They're coming up, the wedding is 3 months away. I also, by the way, I recommend that this should start 4 to 6 months before the wedding date. Here's why. You might find yourself 3 months out, seriously. The session 2 ought to be done about 3 months out. They need to talk about some things. They may discover this is not a good idea, and they need some time to back out. They need time to make changes before too many things get all done. So I recommend that you do that. If you wait till the last week or something to do this, it's done. And then it really gets crazy if a decision is made not to get married at that point. So talk about deposits and phone and change of address and those kind of things. Also about budgets. And I think one of the things that's important as you're doing this kind of counseling and working with them, talk about allowances. My wife, Michelle, and I do allowances. We each receive a certain amount of what we call mad money. That is my money. That money comes to me each month. I have it put away. I do it cash. We do cash. Put it away. Michelle does not get to question so much or whatever, asking me what I'm spending that money on. It used to be I bought a paper and a coffee almost every day, and that became my, quote, mad money. It was just my money, or I was saved money because I wanted to buy some specific thing, okay? But it's not out of the budget. It's part of the budget. It doesn't take away from the food allowance or paying the mortgage or whatever. It becomes this allowance. But once it's gone, it's gone. The idea behind it is this is the money you get to spend on just yourself or whatever the case is, your things, your hobby, whatever it is, but you don't then get to write more checks or charge more stuff. When it's gone, it's gone. It's just an idea, and we've tried to encourage couples, and some have said, I never thought about that. That's a great idea. Yes, because it keeps you in line, and you don't find yourself spending money you don't need to be spending. Then I talked to them about tithes and savings. I'm a firm believer, and retirement. It's important to be looking ahead. One of the things I think is important is I tell couples, my wife and I have lived on 80% of our income since the day we were married. We put 10% back in savings, and we tithe 10%. And we live and we budget on 80%. I've had some say, oh, I can't do that. You can, because we have had more money and less money in our lives. Different times, different places, different things. If you will tithe to yourself, I'm going to use that example, and put 10% of your income into savings, it will be there when you have emergencies, when struggles come, and then you won't be all stressed out because you don't have any money put back. Just don't even think about it. It's in a savings account. It's in a CD. It's in whatever, money market, something that you can get to, but not easily. Those are the kinds of things you talk to them about. The next part is sex in the marriage relationship. the couple may already be living together. Obviously, more than likely, there's already been premarital sex going on. So you have to kind of talk through a little bit of that. The other part of it is, if not, then I want to talk about the wedding night plans. Even just mention, not that you give a sex education talk, but about birth control. Are they planning on having birth control to do certain things? Not because you're asking them to give you the most intimate details of their life, but somebody needs to talk to them, and this is a good opportunity for you to do it. Talk about the importance of sex and the physical relationship in marriage, that your bodies are no longer your own. They belong to each other, fulfilling each other's needs and being patient with each other. My usual joke on this is this. I have said that in counseling over the years as a pastor, even as the bishop, I find most marital problems are on finances and sex. And usually it's because there's not enough of either. The truth of it is, there's a case here made when finances and you're struggling with money and you don't have enough, or you haven't budgeted right, or you're not doing the right things, you're going to have tension. With sex, making love, the intimacy, when there's not enough of that physical relationship, causes problems. So I talked to them that both of these are major areas of marriage, not just the wedding. Now we're talking about marriage itself. And then finally, spiritual decisions. Make sure they both have made a decision for Christ. They have told you that. Talk to them a little bit about the deepness of that relationship, about church attendance, tithing, involvement, their talents, their service. I'm a firm believer in this. I talk about the biblical place of a husband and wife in the home. I talk to that groom, if you would. I believe you're held accountable for your home. You should be praying. If you don't know how to pray out loud, I'll work with you on that. Stand in front of a mirror and do it out loud. Pray out loud so that you can hear. Lead your family in prayer. Pray with your wife. I talk to them. Wives, submission does not mean weakness. It means that we are doing this together in our places of the home because we each have places to work within. And then parents and children and home Bible studies, prayer, discipline, discipleship, all kinds of things. Just that's part of those spiritual decisions to talk about. Session 3, then we get into the final part, is the final planning of the wedding. That's when you've asked them to bring back the documents showing who's in the wedding, exactly the order of things. They bring back to you that they've gone through the wedding ceremony. They like all of this. They're asking you to change this wording here, this wording there, whatever the case is. You've been given this, and I think it's going to be coming in a Word document essentially for you that you'll be able to do. So what you would be able to do is download this, and then you actually could, where it just says groom's name, bride's name, obviously put in those names, and you actually could use this. I've got it set up in such a way that it's this direction. I have a small black book that I like to use, and so what I have done is I do this so that you can put these page after page, and in the ceremony, you've got it right there with you. Hole punch it so it makes it easy. If you like that, you're welcome to use it. If you like this ceremony, you're welcome to use it. If not, it's not copyrighted, it's mine. It is yours to use, giving it to you. So that being said, also remember in session 3, you give the letter that states what you have done, that you have done the counseling with them, give it to them so that if in their state they get a reduction of cost on the marriage license, this is what they would need to be able to show that. Okay. Also remember that you need to register your license. Make sure that you have registered your license ordination at a county courthouse, that you're in a certain book on a certain page in a county, because all of that has to be done on the marriage license. All right, let me take you through this next part. I'm going to walk you through a ceremony so that you've got that ready to go. So you're in a setting of a church and they've come in. Minister, you're off to the side. And with the groom, sometimes they have the groomsmen walk in also, or they just come in with you. Normally what you're going to do, you will walk up and then you will have the guy standing here. And then the ladies are going to come down the aisle. That's what normally takes place, the bridesmaids, and they're going to line up on this side. And what you would do is be there, and the groom is right here with you. Then Bridesmaids come in, flower girl, ring bearer, whatever the case is, make sure they know where they're going to be standing, all those things. When I do a wedding rehearsal, here's what I do. I get everyone in place up front. I get if the father is giving the bride away, and different people do different things at this point, okay? But let's say the dad is giving the bride away, call it kind of an old-fashioned thing. And so I actually have them stand there, the groom, groomsmen, bridesmaids, ring bearers, flower girls. Everybody gets in place first at the rehearsal. Then you have the dad, you say, who gives this woman to be married, her mother and I, if that's what they're saying, and does it. And I kind of show them how that they need to do. The dad would actually give the hand, holds the hand, and the groom, and it's almost like they're shaking hands together. It's kind of an odd thing. It's right hand to right hand. But the idea behind it is the dad gives the hand, steps back, and then what ends up happening is the groom takes this hand and then does this kind of a thing and puts her hand over his. It's kind of it really looks cool. And it makes that groom feel really cool. And everybody in the audience is going, ooh, that was smooth, yeah. And the idea behind it is to have a good time with the wedding itself. So I do that, start there. Dad goes and sits down. Then I say to the groom, will you take the bride, blah, blah, blah. I will. Bride, will you? I will. I actually, and this ceremony has it, I asked the parents of the bride and groom to please stand, and I asked them to take a vow, if you would, that they would vow today to pray for, encourage, and support their children in this new relationship. If so, say, I will. And they say, I will. I asked the whole congregation to stand, and the bridal party also then is a part of this. Will you pray for, support, encourage these two persons as they enter into this relationship as husband and wife? If so, say, I will, and have the whole congregation. I know that is different, but it is one of those things I think is really good. It lets everyone be a part of the importance and understand the importance that a marriage needs encouragement and support and prayer from others. Okay, then at that point, if that is the case, I pray over the whole wedding. I've got a prayer in there for you. If you want to use it, use something else, doesn't matter. Then at that point, prayer, amen, you may be seated. When that is done, then usually here's how we would work. I would take it, if there are steps you're going to, now you go up, you lead them up, have the groom to